Adam, right? A small organ in a person that if you satisfy him, will be hungry, and if you starve him, will be satisfied, right? So the biggest problem with pornography is what it teaches you about your desires. That's the issue. So part of the chinuch has to be teach people what intimacy is supposed to look like and the midos. People don't like talking about details of intimacy because it's not tzanua. That's correct. But the midos are easy because we can all feel them. The concepts. Showing people what intimacy is meant to look like, and then showing them how porn is completely the opposite and will destroy every part of intimacy you can even imagine. So not only now what would happen is we've gotten in touch with our deepest desires, which is basically an intimate relationship. All the parts of that, which is super needs that we need to have to survive. And then we realize, hey, this is the way to get to it is practically like this, and this will completely destroy everything that I want and need. And that's nuclear power. Because then a person says, hey, that's not what I want. And I can get fulfilled in other ways. The fifth shiur is about marriage versus sex outside of marriage. I don't think young people have an understanding of what they are doing to themselves and to the girl in terms of their future marriage. To really understand the difference between these two things is actually a sugya of omek that Hashem, one of the most beautiful brachas there are, we say under the chuppah, that He not only said we shouldn't sleep around, you shouldn't even take your wife until you have iksuba. To understand what a ksuba is and what it radically changes in experience, that it makes it fulfilling, satisfying, connected, as opposed to not, makes people wise. And then they can have real decisions. Because the nisyonos, there has never been an easier time to sleep with a girl. Never. In the history of the world. And people have so not understanding of what they're doing. My wife was once at Zomet HaGush in Gush Etzion, and she heard two bachrim talking. I don't know which yeshiva they're from, and if I did, I wouldn't say. And they had a conversation went like this. Okay, it's amazing. One guy said, I can't do it anymore. I can't. It's pikuach nefesh. I'm being motzi zera, and that's like ritzicha, and taking a zona is not even a lav. So pikuach nefesh, it's more so to take a zona. What's the big deal? I'll be really nice to her. Take good care of her. I'll pay her well. She won't have any problems, right? So what's this guy saying? He's saying, there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing to her. And if you ask any woman, what's the worst thing you can say to a woman what she is, right? You call her a slut, right? So you're taking this Beis Yaakov girl, obviously, and you're destroying her essence, and you're telling me I'm not doing anything wrong because I'm paying her well. It's all because people have no chinuch. They haven't thought for 1 second what they're doing. And therefore they make these dumb decisions based on nothing. Very destructive. So until we teach people, we can't expect them to actually make good decisions. So that's a very important topic. And it's very important for the young boys because they don't have anything holding them back except these rules and these fear tactics, and that doesn't work. That's the fifth shiur. And the sixth shiur is, now that we accessed all of these needs and wants, analyzing what are the things that we actually need to change in our life, practical changes that we need to do, steps. Like if you have a goal, right? So there's two things you have to always do. First, you have to look at the end game, visualize it, get it really clear. Because if you don't know where you're going, what's the point, right? It's like opening a business and say, what are you doing? Oh no, I'm making money. What does that even mean? What am I trying to accomplish? So you envision how your marriage, you want it to look. All the elements you want it to be there, because you've got very clear over the last 5 shiurim, from yourself, right? And then, okay, what are the steps I need to work on to get there? Boom, boom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we do a little meditation, which is extremely powerful for people, that we know the machshava, kadma ta'asiyah. The way to create something is with machshava first and then asiyah. First, then dibur, then asiyah. So the meditative process puts people in a totally different space, and they're able to be empowered to do all of those things that they said. That's the shir that I'm Mitzvah Hashem going to start next week. This was a sort of a hakdama. And now I want to open the floor for questions.
As a kid that used to watch porn almost daily,
Mm-hmm.
well, first of all, it's like one of like the hardest, like it was an addiction, and how I like basically stopped watching porn was I've been told this many times, but I didn't really think about it. Was basically that there's always room for tshuva, and that all you have to do is say sorry, and work on it, and then it'll literally be like it vanished, right?
Mm-hmm.
I took it as like levels, right? Well, I was like, let's say I'm very skinny or very fat, and then I want to go to the gym, and I see this guy, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm never gonna look like him, right? Or let's say a rabbi, there's no way I'm gonna learn as much and know as much Torah and be as connected as God to him. But I thought to myself, and I said to myself, like, that doesn't matter, you know. It's just like a simulation, you know. It's like levels, you know. It's like it's level 1, it's level 2, you know. Like, so that's when I started, like, you know, like, today I'm not going to do this. And, like, I was so addicted to it that I used to watch it, and not even when I wasn't horny. Literally, like, it used to be just a thing in my day, you know. I need to do it, and the way I got off of it was I realized that there's a restart button, you know. There's restart buttons, and like Hashem is like watching me every time I do it. He's like, hey, well, you know, like, and so I clicked the reset button many times and it didn't work, but I slowly started working more. So I'm only gonna start watching it. I started watching only 2 times a week. Now it came down to 1 time a week, and then the reason I don't watch porn isn't because he put a block on my phone and there's no internet on my phone right now. It's because I realized that there's greater stuff there. Okay, so I have problems with many other things like Lashon Hara, and yes, that maybe I do jerk off sometimes, but like, because who doesn't struggle with it? But I realized I started growing when I started realizing that you don't have to be the biggest rabbi for Hashem to love you. Hashem loves every Jew no matter what, right? But it's like levels, like, you know, like you just build yourself on and on and on and on. And also what you said about as a 13 years old or 14 years old even, I didn't like when Hashem put the porn in my life and I started jerking off. After I watched it, I didn't say, oh Hashem, this must have been something, what are you doing, right? I was just like, oh shit, I messed up, oh my god, I feel like shit. And next week I'd done the same thing. It wasn't like, oh, like as a 13 years old, 14 years old, we don't like, yes, we feel like, oh, Hashem is gonna kill me, he hates me. Yes, we do think that because, I did because I was in Talmud Torah. But I didn't think of it like that. And I think other people also don't like, fooling is a thing to grow from, but also at the same time, if you don't like teach someone, like if you don't teach him like this is wrong, then he's just gonna keep on doing it, because also Hashem isn't visible. Like sometimes you could see him in your life, but he isn't 100% visible, and it's easier to just say, oh, you know, it's okay. So yeah, that's what
So I have a lot to comment about that. Number one, I want everyone to see how smart and deep the younger generation is, because the things that I'm teaching people about how growth should be in levels, and Hashem loves you the whole process, he knows intuitively. So that's amazing. The second thing I want to comment on is the I'm sorry thing. So it's a little bit deeper than that. Let's say someone does something to you and it hurts, and you tell them, and they say, oh, I'm sorry. Did that fix anything?
No, you have to, if he sees you say it full your heart, and you literally you're on your knees begging and telling him, you know, like, I'm really sorry, and he sees you're sorry, like in his eyes, then I mean, I'm pretty sure like most
Right.
of my friends probably heard them, and they would really say I'm sorry, like a real sorry. Then of course I'm pretty sure they'll forgive.
Right. So actually, if they looked at you and they saw you were sincere, like, wow, I get it. I really heard. I would never do that again.
Yeah.
You don't have to beg. You don't have to beg on your
Right,
knees.
of course, but,
Right?
you know,
Okay. So that teaches you the point that I said before. As soon as you realize I don't want to do this, this actually hurts me, and I don't want it in my life. That's tshuva. You're done. There's already called aziva sachet, and there's madregas of tshuva, but that's the basis. And even if you fall again, that's because even though you did charata, there's a new nisayon, right? So you understand that process. You stop freaking out. Yeah, I fell. I actually have a real. It's not like I'm sorry. Like I thought about it. I really don't. This is not what I want, and I'm going to figure out the eitzah of how to get out of it. So that's already called tshuva. And the other comment I want to make is that I really think it's amazing how you went in levels. What I would like to know is, what were you missing that you filled in your life that you didn't need the porn anymore? That's the secret.
Sorry?
There must have been a reason that was pushing you to do that you gave, and that you decided, I'm going to give up on this and have it fulfilled somewhere else, or else you wouldn't have the strength to do that.
Okay, well, also I missed out something where even, let's say, not even a Jewish guy, like when I'm on social media and I'm scrolling through social media, I see people like telling me, like people I look up to, like, wow, he has a body, he has girls, he has money, he has everything, right? Well, not everything, and he's saying, hey, do you watch porn? You're a pussy. And he is not religious, nothing. He's just telling you, like, get up. Why are you watching? Why are you putting stuff into your head that's like you're just thinking something. You're just thinking someone else's like story. You're not even like, what are you doing? You're sitting there every day. So that also, which helped me, and yeah.
Great.
What did I replace it with? Well,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna say the gyms, even though I really love the gym. Which is, I would say, like, ever since I started actually going to the gym, like, it really like helped me. You know, like, I took it all out there. Like, I really worked on myself. Like, boom, boom, boom. And maybe some people that doesn't help for them, but
That's amazing, because that's something that's not even spiritual. And you see that you're filling a void. Your mamish taking something and you're now redirecting it. Something's a passion. So imagine if it was a spiritual thing, then we could understand halachas come.
Rav Vulba said to Rav Shach that he could solve, I don't know the number because it's two different kirsos, but let's say 60% of the problems of Kedusha in the yeshiva system. They would make a weight room in the yeshiva system. That's what he said.
wow.
If they made a gym in the
Yeah.
yeshiva, they
Yeah,
would
I heard
solve
regarding sports, but yeah, the concept of a kid having a time to take away anxiety and other things that.
anxiety. There's a lot of reasons why that happens. When we go into it, the detail of what pushes people, it becomes very obvious why physical exercise solves that problem. It's a lot. It's not just one aspect. It's a few aspects.
Yeah, my friend actually, he told me, like, he used to be very addicted. He told me ever since he started playing soccer and going out, like, literally he's always there, literally always on the court. There's no like, every time I call him, every time I video call him, he's always at the soccer pitch, enjoying. He had a girlfriend, she cheated on him or something, whatever. But like, I see that he's like from that. But I do still like sometimes like masturbate in my head, but like not as much as I used to. Meaning, like, I would say now down to like 2 times every 2 weeks or 1 time every 2 weeks. Like, it's rare, but
Kol hakavod.
like I.
The desire will always be there. 'Cause it's supposed to. The question is how you use it.
Yes, if someone would respond, in my own interactions of working in this field, if someone would respond to me, I'm scared. I was worried, saying, I got to a point I have no desire. Then we're really, then we're in trouble. I have no desire for women. Then it could be men or other things. And then we're getting into a whole new.
Or even if he's successful,
Right.
he's destroying himself
Destroying
and
himself.
destroying his marriage and destroying his ability to connect to Hashem.
Dr. Nasser, you talked about how I summarized that aspect, B'stor Meira, V'aseh Tov, and that's, a person has to distance himself, and in your teachings and your experience and your counseling, so you say you have to replace it. What in what were the desires? Okay, we talked about a weight room. I'm curious to hear how else, how is it redirected in your experience?
There's a lot of different things because it depends on desire. But I'll give you an example. There's a guy in yeshiva who told me he's having issues with masturbation every single day. He has no way to control it. He was freaking out. Then what happened? He started dating, and it was good. No more problems. Vanished.
Even
Miracle.
without touching.
What?
Even without touching. Between
Yeah, it wasn't touching. It was an emotional need.
I also had that story with the Talmud, the same thing, and it's an amazing thing what he said to me. He said just having the female perspective, just meeting somebody else and having the going out, yeah, maybe a little bit machshava, but certainly all the things regarding porn and masturbation went down dramatically once he was seeing this girl, which is problematic in halacha. Moshe has a tshuva about dating. We call it having just a friend or a girlfriend, which is halachically problematic. But this is I'm telling you the story that with someone that
I'll tell you something else. That both girls and boys, their ability to be healthy in this perspective has a lot to do with the relationship with their parents. So if a boy gets affection from his mother, he is much more able to not go for negative places because he's fulfilled. So maybe he has a messed up relationship with his mother and go fix it. A lot of possibilities like that. But now, the secret is never to give people philosophies. It's always the person has to go inside, and you can always track it. Okay, what happened last time I felt? What was going on inside of me? What was I looking for? Oh, really? That's an issue? Okay, so let's work on that issue. And then the porn becomes something on the side because if that issue is so broad, it'll affect your life so much that when you fix it, that'll go away. And when you don't fix it, your life anyway is in trouble, so let's go work on my life. That's an example. There's a lot of examples.
that's the course.
It's very ambiguous. Let's go work on my life. I mean,
No, so that's what I'm saying. You have to have a compass inside. You have to listen to yourself and find out what's going on inside of me that's pushing me to do this.
well,
And the more clarity you have of what that is, then you know how to fill it. Now, I don't start there. And the reason I don't start there is because you don't understand the needs until you see the full picture. So if you don't understand what a relationship looks like, then you can't understand why going to, if I feel not good about myself on a value level, I'm going to now go to porn. What's the connection? I'm not going to feel better about myself when I go watch porn. So obviously that's not the case. It is the case. And the way to understand that is to understand how much value you get from being in an intimate relationship. And what you're looking for is value. And therefore you need to find that in your life, the same midos as you would in a successful marriage. And then you won't need the porn. So you can't really, I don't think it's smart. So I could sit down with right now and boom, 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 what were you going through beforehand? People think it's like shocking. I once had a guy who says to me, he's doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I said, what do you need? He said, I have no idea. It take me years to figure it out. Okay, let's see. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And he knew completely clear what he was looking for. Right? And once you get that clear, you can actually search it out. But if you don't understand what's that part of, it's like I understand a leaf on a tree, I'm just saying the tree. It doesn't make sense. So that's why I wouldn't start there. I would start understanding the whole topic and then look at the needs.
well, I think one of the greatest killers in our generation is, and we have it more than ever because of the phone and the computer, is free time. And just people have, when we were younger, we played ball. We went out to the courts. And plus we didn't have, what do we have? WHD, which is the 2-channel on the cable, or we went out and that's how we did recreation. Here, it's done on the couch and in the bed, and kids are sleeping with their phones next to them and next to their, right next to them, and there's just too much free time, which is, we know, the greatest killer, the spiritual killer, is free time. So I think, isn't that the core of that creates that vacuum of everything to just, you know.
Okay, so saying free time is a external way of understanding something deeper, which is that since you came into this world with a purpose, because that's why you were created, you have a very deep need to feel purpose, right? And therefore, if you're bored, you're going to go out of your mind because you are out of who you are. And you're going to search something which will entertain you. So if we say to people, don't have free time, I got a good idea. We'll give them lots of homework. I actually heard that once in the Beis Yaakov. The reason the girls get lots of homework is because they're worried the kids are going to do bad stuff. So let's make them completely inundated with the most hard work, and we solve the problem. Aha.
But to a degree, they do. That's what I mean. There is a certain aspect to it. Girls don't have free time. They're less prone to get involved in inventing, but that's not the solution. It's going to eventually...
At a certain point, they say
there's a point.
18 they're done.
It's 18 where it's good for 13, 14, 15.
Maybe. Or maybe you give them things that have meaning.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And then they feel great about themselves. And they're like, what? Why would I do that?
Mm-hmm.
That's a much better solution. So I would never say the problem is time. I would say the problem is we're not giving things that kids, valuable things to do. And the truth is our school system encourages them to do things that are not valuable, because they're doing waste of time work that means nothing, and we're not giving them the connection to their soul and the reason they came into the world. Right? How many times in school do they tell you, listen, what do you really want out of life? What do you want to do with your life? Right? How will you be a fully actualized Tzelem Elohim? How many times do they do that in school? What?
That's the most common question.
No, yeah, but the kids.
Huh?
But does the school encourage it?
Think about what the school is doing.
Right? So that's a huge problem in education. The reason kids are bored is because they have nothing to do.
That's why you hit on, I think, one of the most fundamental points in my own experiences. I think this is the crime and wickedness of the leadership, rabbinic leadership, is telling us that it's the time. The kids, what are they doing? They have time, it's only with iPhone. Yeah, but what are you as an educator helping them understand to fill that time? You're just complaining about this. So it's the iPhone the problem. No, he doesn't enjoy the yeshiva. He doesn't want to take responsibility. It's so much easier just to blame it on the free time and the phone.
Right.
Why isn't Torah enough? If it says in Gemara Kedushin that Rossi Torah Tablet, so then guys who are sitting and learning and rebbes who are sitting and learning all day, surely they should be safe. They should not be masturbating and cheating and.
Okay, so there's two topics on this. One, I want to continue what he said. That if you take a person who is meant in his tachas l'chaim not to be sitting all day long, then the Torah will actually make him crazy, because he is not being himself. You've told him what he is. It's exactly what the Sfarim say. Ein adam loimed el ma shelibo chafetz. Right? It's the same topic. Right? You ever seen an animal, a lion try to be a giraffe?
No.
Right? They know exactly what they're supposed to do. Right? So do human beings, if you let them. Right? Chazal says Mori Mishnah, Mori Talmud, Mori Mikra. Right? There are people who are created to do specific tasks. Like, for example, the machla that's the most with a lot of the kids is they have ADD. In other words, terms are supposed to do stuff in the world and they're bored sitting and learning. That's what it means, right? Okay, so you take one of these kids and you shecht him by learning all day long. Believe me, he's going to find something more interesting. That's number one. Number two, that if the Torah was something meaningful to people, right, they were learning something that has to do with themselves. Most of the Torah that's taught today, the way it's taught, not necessarily the topics, the way it's taught is outside of my himself. It has nothing to do with me. I'm learning here, intellectual ideas. Therefore, my midos don't change. How many morals and values are taught in the yeshiva system? Person learns Choshen Mishpat. Okay, he's a baki. He knows all of the halachos. You know what he does with them? I know, because they're my friends. They become Tohen Rabbanim, and how to screw the other guy the best in Bezdin. Why? Because he's smart. Wait, 1 second. You're a liar. You're stealing. Choshen Mishpat is just as a midah, right? The Rabbeinu Yonah says the Vina Avos that if you want to, all of Linzikin is lo sigzol. Okay, so first you have to. I don't want to steal someone's money. That's my morals and values. Now we'll learn Choshen Mishpat, how that comes into play. If you don't teach morals and values, Choshen Mishpat becomes a head game, and then whatever morals and values you have, it'll help those morals and values. So if you don't care about people, and you're selfish, and you don't feel people's pain, you're going to steal with Choshen Mishpat.
So the Torah will become a Sam Mothers. That's what the Gemara means.
Exactly.
Sam Mothers. That's the Sam
Exactly.
Mothers of the Torah. As one of the great rabbis says, every daf Gemara he's learning is poison. And the more he learns, it's poison. It's the worst thing he's not allowed to learn. Torah is actually making it worse.
But isn't the ultimate driver ultimately always a desire for the fakest Hashem?
Yes, because
Once you get past everything else.
Yes, because the main thing we're doing in this world is Dveikus B'Hashem, so it's the deepest desire of any human being. But the way to have Dveikus B'Hashem is to be in this world, and to do all of the things that in this world teach you those mitos. So therefore, when you ask somebody what they're looking for, they won't say Dveikus B'Hashem, because that's not what they're experiencing. They'll say Dveikus with my wife. And if they do that, even without them even realizing it, they will get mitos that will connect them to Hashem, and if they realize it even better, right? What's the most important mitzvah in the Torah? Most important.
After it,
After Reach Kamocha, right? What does that mean? Who's Reacha?
It's not other than you.
Who's the biggest Reacha?
Hashem.
Wife.
Your wife.
No.
Gemara and Kiddushin, Daf Membeis, right? Your wife. It's also Hashem. How could the same word Reacha mean Hashem and your wife? The answer is, this is a mashal and a nimshal. These mitos that you create will help you with Dveikus B'Hashem. So now that means the most important thing you can possibly do in this world is connect to your wife.
When the Shekhinah comes to you.
That's why there's Shekhinah there. Because the mitos that it takes to connect a husband and a wife are the mitos that connect you with Hashem.
Ima Ilah and Ima Sultan.
What do you say?
Ima Ilah and Ima Sultan.
Right, but those, if you say those words, the big danger about learning Pnimius HaTorah is it becomes a head game, and you don't know what you're talking about, and it actually is mazik you in that sense. In this generation, because people are very, like this young man, very alive and inside of themselves, we can translate those concepts in the most simplistic, real way if we just know what the code means, right? So in the code, let's say of Ima, right, is a certain way of thinking that women have very, very strong, which is intuitive thinking, right? They not necessarily what it is, what does it mean? Okay? So the meaning of what you're doing goes way beyond the action of what you're doing, right? So we're having a love affair over here, we're having all kinds of physical experiences over here between a husband and a wife. But what's the meaning behind this? The meaning is I love you and I care about you and I want to have your life be so amazing. Those mitos are what makes a person David Pashem. Okay?
what if a person says that I feel closest to Hashem after I masturbate?
Okay, so you have to check the mitos. What are the mitos that he's putting inside of himself? Do those mitos get you close to Hashem? I'm not talking about feelings. Feelings kim dimyonos. I'm talking about the person you become. It's all about who you become in this world, right? So the person who masturbates, what kind of person does he become? Think about it for a second. What mitos does masturbation encourage? Taiva is just a koach hanefesh that when you eat, you also have taiva.
Selfish.
But why does it make selfishness?
Saying you absorb within yourself, within your own world, and it makes you separate naturally from everything.
You know what can happen? You can be making love with your wife and be blocked in your own world because you spent so many years teaching yourself to use this koach hanefesh separately. Even if there was another human being there, you won't connect to her. That's the midah of masturbation. Not only that, it also disconnects you to Hashem. Right? How do you feel when after you masturbate, you're like really sensitive to people, really able to like really concentrate on Hashem? Yeah, wow. Really? You're able to? So that means if you're honest and you say to yourself, oh, it makes me close to Hashem. Okay, let's see. Was the proof in the pudding?
Rationalization.
Right? People like to always feel good about themselves. They'll say all kinds of stuff. But if you want to be emizdik,
So why are they not teaching this in yeshivas? How come it's not being taught? I was in yeshiva for 5 years. I don't think we got one share.
okay. So there's two answers to that question. One is fear. A mashal, Rav Wolbe said to his mashgichim, you guys have to teach emunah and bitachon. They're like, well, we don't know. We can't teach it. Okay? That was their answer. So, take this topic, right? They themselves are struggling with it.
Who's they?
The Rabbeim, okay, because they come to me. And they're going to teach these guys with what kelim? They don't know. They didn't learn the sugya. That's problem number one. Problem number two is a deeper problem. That the whole way we have been learning Torah, because we were in Golus, is Ein LaKadosh Baruch Hu El Dal Amal Shehalacha, which means we were only discussing what. We're like soldiers. We do what it says in Shulchan Aruch, and that's how I grew up, and it worked for me. As the generations go by, Hashem is forcing us, and people are forcing themselves because they need it, to have meaning. So they need to learn the Torah why. And the nisyonos of the generation will only be able to be conquered if a person connects to the Torah they're learning and knows why. Now the Olam HaYeshivas is still built on an old-fashioned system that only discussing the what and all kinds of pilpulim that how it technically works in your head. But people are not connected, don't have any meaning what they're doing, and therefore the Torah that it will actually impact on the topic of bris, they're not teaching. All they're able to teach is rules and ramifications and salute, if not I kill you. That won't work. What needs to work is, what's the meaning behind this? What's the meaning behind this? Why did Hashem say this? What will this do to you? What midos will it encourage? And then you'll have a person who's 13 will say, wow, really? Boom, I'm different now. I don't want that, because it has meaning. And that's a shinoi that has to happen in the world. Who's coming to Eretz Yisrael, and the gilui, what's called pnimi Torah, tamei mitzvos, that this generation is now being tovea. If you don't give it to me, I won't keep the Torah, because that's what I want, right? Or the Torah can't exist because there's no tavlin that's for this Yetzer Hara. So that's why I think that Olam HaYeshiva is not teaching it, because first of all, they don't know what to teach, and it's also different than the whole Derech HaLimud that's being done. It's not enough to fix this problem. Tikkun HaBris is one microcosm of an issue within the entire system, right? All of the Torah they're learning doesn't have mashmot, doesn't have meaning, doesn't pull people, doesn't connect people. So therefore, you won't have people doing, the people are not doing Tikkun HaBris. I hate to break it to you. There are a lot of people who are not from Bichlal, and they look very from. They're not doing mitzvahs, they're not doing Shabbos, not doing tefillin, they're not doing anything, right? I remember David Cohen said, 10 years ago, it's like, we got to start teaching people what Shabbos is. They don't have, what is Shabbos? And people what Yontif is, they're not even connected to it. How long do you think that's going to last? How many kids are going off the derech? Well, that's a minimal amount of kids. They're the ones brave enough to fight the system, but the ones who are not brave enough, they do the same thing inside. They're just not telling you.
There are rabbis who saying that look like they keep, but they're not.
They're rabbis, they're talmidim, they're all kinds of people.